So they liked us, and so we did study number 2, which was a carbon emissions analysis. This is a building, 300 square foot concrete frame building. It's right by the Galleria, that we helped them with. Their home office said that every building that you develop in the U.S. need to do a carbon emissions analysis, and they hadn't started, and so they asked us if we would help. So we looked at all of the things that were contributing to emissions in the construction of that. So one is the transportation of the craft workers. It's these guys. And we had a survey, and they filled it out how they got there and how far away did they work. So we made graphs and we made crazy spreadsheets of all of this so that we could calculate how much emissions were emitted by each person, and then we would find out what the number of workers were on the site. So we made an average per person and a number of people per day throughout the construction period. We also looked at the building materials, and as you know, it's both the manufacturing and getting to the site. So we would get information from our subcontractors. This is looking at the precast, and they would give us all kinds of information, the weight, where it all came from. Sometimes we would get maps. And I wish this was better, but this is showing China. So we have a piece of aluminum storefront frame coming from China, going through Chile, going through the canal, and coming up to the port, and then zooming in on the U.S. So we're tracking all those materials coming in, both their what was emitted during their manufacturing, but also in their transportation via whatever transportation method they're going. We looked at construction waste. So we looked at, this is the monthly construction waste report, fascinating reading. Different types of material, how much was recycled. Tracked that over the course of construction. Also tracked energy and water use on the site. And we looked at like the energy, the electric bill. And when you look at the electric bill, that's not enough. You have to know what mix they've bought. And so they were buying the typical ERCOT electricity mix, which is this kind of mix, and coal emits differently than natural gas, than nuclear. So you have to take all that into account. And we tracked both water and electric use and carbon emissions over the construction period. And we came up with a grand total of 100 kilograms of carbon per square foot. And we've done our second analysis for them for a building that was about the same size, also concrete frame. And so now we're able to compare against different categories the amount of carbon by each. And it's really fascinating and interesting, and most of the carbon comes from the concrete. So. We also helped Skanska on a third study being consulted for LEED version 4. And again, going back to what LEED version 4 has is these new materials and resource credits that deal with environmental product declarations, sourcing of raw materials, and what are the material ingredients. And it's basically a search for documentation of what's in those materials. And these are all of the US GBC LEED approved sources of accreditation or certification. So we went to various databases and saw, well, what's on those databases, what building materials have those credentials, third party and other resources. And we were looking for things called a corporate sustainability report, which is usually done by big manufacturers like people who make elevators, that they talk about how their company is sustainable and what measures they have. We were looking for things called EPDs, which are environmental product declarations. This is an EPD for a chair by Knoll, where they list how much CO2 is emitted during the extraction and manufacturing, how much for end of life, how much for use, and how much for assembly. They also list all of the materials, what happens at the end of life, and what is the environmental impact of global warming and various things in different phases. HPD is similar to an EPD, but these are trying to be the same. So in an EPD, a manufacturer can have one format, it can be vertical, different graphics, different units. in a health product declaration, they're all trying to be the same. But these are all new. And so we're looking at all of these different places that count for some of these different credits, basically, is what we're looking for. And this is what we found. Most of the EPDs and possible credits come in areas of like paint, glazing, acoustical panels, all of those things that are really heavily manufactured items that have big companies that are able to do these reports and spend the money, not the mom and pop small entrepreneurial places that don't have that kind of money to do that kind of front-end research. And these are the companies. So Armstrong, Saint-Gobain, Borbo, these are all global companies. So that's a little bit about what we do. I wanted to ask you, what do you think makes a material sustainable? And is it these things or something else? So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.